Good afternoon, everybody. This is Phil, and I'm doing a quick video. It's a long overdue video for the Beretta Nano. And um, I remember when the Pico came out. I want to say it was over 10 plus years ago, the Beretta Pico. And I don't even remember, well, I just didn't like it because it was like too small of a 380, I believe it was. Um, Too smooth, and too simplistic, if that makes sense. And I remember thinking that would be nice to have, maybe plink around occasionally. But if I didn't need to buy it, I would be okay with not buying it. If it was put in with a very cheap deal of some sort, of course, I love all guns. Okay. And some are worse than others. I like the archaic, I want to say, less needed handguns that still work. And I think literally, as a utilitarian, could I use that weapon as a last resort to save my life? Okay. I believe a lot of preppers think like that ahead of time. If you're a gun collector, you love the history, you love what the gun can do. You run it through the numbers, you put it in the frickin' nightstand drawer. Maybe you put it in the safe and you forget about it for 30 years and you donate it to your children when you're about to kick off. I don't know, but I believe my children have a certain amount of knowledge now about guns and gun safety, and especially the 22 rifle, to practice that in their lifetime. And so my guns, I hope, do go to them. I have purchased guns specifically for them when they are of age and they can have them and do as they please. My point is, I want them to survive in the future and know that they have unalienable rights to protect themselves at all costs from a tyrannical government or a tyrannical people of anybody, of any concern, regardless, even if they're criminals, even if it's a single criminal that wishes to take their life, okay, or wishes to harm them and steal their livelihood one way or another. When their life is in danger, they have a right to defend themselves. And that's what I hope they learn very early in life. And then they can learn peace the remainder of their life by practicing, studying, I want to say war, so they don't have to, so to speak. Always practicing good, safety conscious self defense so that they get to live a prosperous and free life under Christianity. Anyways, that's my philosophy. That's my simple philosophy why I collect guns. I love the historic value. I love the history behind each gun. I believe each gun has a soul in itself. Um, and it's not that I can elaborate about that. It's just that it's unique in its own way. And it's interesting because each piece of metal is put together to be a machine to make a function. Okay. And that in itself is an embodiment of a machine, you can say, but it has its own unique character and soul. And I love that. That's why I collect guns. There are guns that I don't like, and the Pico was one of them. And I thought it was cute at first when I looked at it, and I was like, "Yeah, my hands kind of are moving around it, you know." And no, thank you. For the price, it is not worth it. The Beretta products, to me, I don't have a niche for. I don't. The PX Storm with rotating barrel and its chunky handle and grip. Okay, I say handle because I'm putting my hand on it, and even I'm saying that's pretty chunky for a 9 millimeter, and all the stuff going on in the internals. It's unique if I can get one inexpensive. It's unique because they are great engineers and designers of battle proven weapons, so to speak, or battle proven technologies. And that same machination they put together with specifications that are so perfect. Yeah, but it's not worth the money to me. They are overpriced generally compared to every other gun in the market that does a better job and is just as precise in its precision and its machinations and the manufacturing and the welding and the metal casting and the type of metals they use and the polymers they use and the steel mechanisms inside and springs and okay, you know, these different manufacturers can make the same just as well. So are we buying the Beretta name in 500 years and they are resting on their laurels? The PX4, whatever it is, the Storm handgun and its shininess, I couldn't stand it. And the bigger grip and handle, the receiver, lower half, and the rotating barrel, it was just too much to take. If I could get it for $200, I might say, okay. But as a service oriented weapon, as something I want to invest a lot of time and effort in and build a lot of different, what do they call it, systems, quote unquote, like these tactical tough guys on YouTube. No, no, I did not have the stomach for it. I didn't have the stomach for the Pico. I didn't have the stomach for the Nano. However, the Nano looked somewhat cool, and I was waiting for a good deal. Okay. And to be honest, with the Nano I bought months ago, maybe a year ago, I held on to, and I was like, man, I can pawn this and get some money. And I'm thinking to myself, no. Because of my schemes, I like the 9mm. I like the 22s, of course, for utilitarian purposes, for hunting, for target practice, for just all around fun. And, excuse me, you could use that for a defensive weapon with a nice rifle and a nice scope within 300 and 400 yards and still be, I want to say, to certain degrees, a sniper, if you know what you're doing. Okay. And you're dealing with, I want to say, guerrilla warfare in some respects, how you make good your escape, because you're basically trying to minimize an op force and take one or two people out and then get out of Dodge. You want to burden the platoon size or company size level there of soldiers with a few injuries or fatalities. And you could hold off people with a little 22 with sufficient concealment and cover. Bet. It's been done before in history. However, there's a lot of different uses for that. So when I say utilitarian, or utilitarian, I mean you have the use for it, and there's a specific use for it that you're going to really enjoy using it for that purpose only. But it can be used multiple different ways and knock out all the reasons why you need that food, why you need that medication, why you need those clothes, why you need those shoes, why you need a coat, okay? Why you need something specifically utilitarian. You have something and you get the most use out of it for that main purpose, and it just so happens to have a few other purposes. So I say I'm a utilitarian in general. Okay. I like getting the most out of each individual thing I prep or I stow away for when the chance arises, I need it. And when I'm looking at the Beretta Nano, I was like, same circumstances, waiting till the price is cheap. I want to say the bigger gun store in the Culpeper and Fauquier and Stafford counties had it cheap. I want to say for either $300 or like $250 or $270. Okay, and I'm going to bring some extra guns into this review because the Beretta Nano is here. Looks like the old Cat 9 Intratec 9mm pistols they try to do. I had one when I was a police officer. I was like, this is great. I shot it and it was kind of, it wasn't smooth at all. And this reminds me of that. And I'm not saying this couldn't shoot well, but it's been done before. It's been done. This has been checked before. There's no lockback open. However, there's some negativity about this in the magazine. It's last round hold open. And then when you take the magazine out, if you don't have anything else and you're loading up the magazine and you want to put it forward so no dust gets in it, you have to pull it back here. I'll show you. All these, no rounds whatsoever. Been checked 3 or 4 times. I had to go around the house, look for this and look for this. Because what was in it, sitting on my nightstand collecting dust because I was just staring at it and just like, one day I will conquer that mountain of the Nano and get to know everything there is to know about it. I don't, because I haven't shot this. It's not worth it to me to go to the range and shoot this yet. Okay, I might most likely will in the future when I have more time and I want to say a readily available range I can go to more often. So as is with the magazine, it's made for, not the extension. It's not an unattractive gun, but they went simplistic on this to certain degrees, and I get that. I love that. Okay. Pull out, use, bam. You don't have to worry about a safety or nothing. Paddle trigger, just like the Glock we're used to. I was raised on in the academy. Okay. And again, last round, hold open. You pull it open on an empty magazine, it locks back. And this magazine, because I didn't find the original smaller magazine, is 8+1 with an extra finger groove on the end you possibly could get your finger around. So let's say bare basics, because this is supposed to be deep carry pocket. Okay, deep carry pocket or somewhere. This could go on your ankle if you're a bigger dude and you have the holster that will make sure it stays secure. I have described before how you're a detective. You don't want to give an air of being a TAC unit guy, a vice unit guy, a uniform officer doing an investigation of something very serious like a rape, like something, assault with intent to mayhem, or assault with intent to kill, or assault with intent to rob, a grocery store where it's a more professional atmosphere when you approach the victim. You might not want to show guns on your hips. You might not want to show a badge sticking underneath your shirt. Okay, I'm sorry, your blazer, So you put that in your pocket and it's clipped to your inside pants pocket. And you have a weapon, yes, but it's concealed in your ankle holster for really deep cover because you just don't want to appear offensive or like you're trying to harm people when you're trying to be open and receptive to people giving you information and you're approaching them in a kind, psychological, and thoughtful way. This, I've seen reviews on catching up, very smooth. I can grip that with 2 fingers, but what about big bony hands and people that can't grip on this with the strength of 2 fingers? This is my left hand here. And I could shoot one hand like this if I had to. I don't know how good I would do in general, but I have just to get used to shooting with the opposing left hand, my weak hand. And it's pretty fun because you never know. Sometimes you need practice at it. So single hand, yes, I can do it with my right hand especially well. Single-handed, single-armed. And so take out the magazine, visually inspect the port, okay, the chamber, and you're like, okay, where's it? Where's the slide stop? It's nice and smooth. This smoothness worries me if sweaty hands or rainy conditions. If you drop your handgun in a battle, you pick it up, would it be slippery and you're just going through the frickin' motions like a clown because you can't wield this being so smooth? I'd like to see the texturing in the back. It's basically crisscross. I can feel that. With my big hands, I can feel some kind of comfort there. But it should have been stippled more on this side. And they do that so it slides in and out of a pocket. Okay. But it can cause its own issues, is my point. Being too smooth, being too slick, falling out of my fingers. And it's very embarrassing. If you drop a handgun, you're not aware of its parameters yet. Does it have a drop safety? It hits the ground. Is it going to discharge? And you're like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I freaking dropped the handgun in front of people at the range. And you're like, what? This might be considered unsafe to some people if they're not paying attention to what they do. Withdraw the weapon, point, shoot, use, threat is gone, or target is hit, holster immediately for safety's sake when you know it's safe. This could cause a lot of troubles in those harried situations. All right, sorry, there was a phone call, excuse me. And so I wonder, like, what was the thinking to keep up with SIG 290? This is the SIG P290 RS. And this is a block of metal too, a chunk of metal. Okay. But SIG did the stippling better, its grip. The regular issued magazine has this little lip right here for the finger so it doesn't slide off. So if I'm shooting this in a harried and hurried situation, I'm less worried. Because I know this is right here and ain't nobody, and it's down to my side right now, pointed to the ground, fingers off the trigger, just like the police were trained to do when they do, I want to say almost a felony stop in a very bad neighborhood. They're allowed to pull out their handgun and keep it to their sides for their own safety's sake. We were trained you can do that on just about every nighttime traffic stop. And you better have your head on a swivel in places like Anacostia if you're a police officer. Okay, there's nothing intimidating about it. We were trained well during the academy, and the police officer is allowed to have his gun right down by his side in a safe direction. Did it all the time. Kids are walking up and running down, oh, I-50. And we have to stop these bad guys in the middle of a bad neighborhood, but there's a lot of kids around. We don't know if they're going to bust off and not care about the kids. In essence, this is a block of metal too, the SIG 290 RS. That's its nomenclature. 6+1. Also, visually and physically checking the port and chamber. There's no round in there. And it has a slide stop that can put it forward. Okay. And I like that. I prefer that. So I always feel that, I want to say, mind muscle coordination, memory going on there. And I feel that. Okay. Safe direction. Chambered. Loading this up. They've already done this with the SIG. And I don't know which one came first. I really don't. I know I like the SIG 290 better than the Nano or any of the Picos or the Beretta, the Beretta store. Real chunky one. So anyways, that was my loaded handgun off to the side safely. But where they tried to answer that and the Ruger, answer the Ruger LC9s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus 1 is 8. Slide stop down. Oops. Here. Thinner. Bigger for the hand in general. A bigger lip for that third finger to get on. 8 rounds. Much cheaper. $250 cheaper. Goes bang every time and will last just as long as a Beretta Nano. I guarantee it. Because Ruger does not play around. And if something breaks down, you need to check on the batch. Okay, not necessarily who made it, not necessarily the company. And you can't blame the company when they make such a good product in everything they do. Okay, I do not dislike Berettas. I think they're beautiful guns in general. But they're almost, I want to say, niche. They're almost like, I don't want to say gangsters want them, but the 92s and what have you of 9mm. You know, they're almost glamorized to a certain degree. And why are we paying for the name when we should pay for the quality? But if the quality is not anything better than the quality of another manufacturer's, $250 less. What are we exactly paying for is my question, is my query, is my kind of investigation into this. Are we paying just for the name? The bravado that surrounds the name, the mystique behind the name. And I'm like, I'll get the Nano because it was, I believe it was just under $300. It was between $250 and $300. And I was like, it's not a niche. It's a pocket mouse gun, but it's chunky and heavy. I don't know all the specifics. And you put a bulky magazine. This has 8. So if you put this in the gun, okay, well, now it won't go forward because there's not a round in there. So let's just put it forward. Again, checked. I mean, triple, quadruple. Check it. Okay. Now look at that. You might as well get a full-size gun at this point. Okay, some of the light is glaring there. Okay. This reminds me of the Intratec Cat 9. I think it was called back then. I used to own a couple of them. And they were like, wow, plastic guns. The only company to do plastic guns like Glock did at the time. I'm almost certain about it. I might be wrong. But there wasn't many. Okay. And half polymer and half tenifer, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And I was like, that Cat 9 looks cool because then I can put that in my pocket and carry without carrying a larger Glock on my side, you know? And depending on the wares you'd have that day, going in and out of the car, let's say you were going to a friend's house or vacationing, you didn't always want to feel that when you sat down in different chairs and different settings. You know, that Glock 17 feel right there, you know, with the holster that was for court attire. Okay. I digress. This is not as big as that. Don't get me wrong, but this is almost as bulky. Look at the platform. It's like a deck of an aircraft carrier, and it's supposed to be a pocket pistol. And still empty. Yeah. I don't know. It just seems to me that Ruger is more streamlined, less bulky. Right out of the box has 2 extra rounds. Okay. This 8+1 would be 9 rounds, but look what you give up. You know, look what you gave up. One is definitely bulkier than the other. The Ruger is streamlined as well and fairly smooth. Has a nice grip. I like to see it a little more textured to it, the rear back strap. You know, that kind of sandy, gritty feeling that your hand ain't moving once you got a good grip. Even if you're sweaty, you know it's not going to move. And so it's like, Beretta, what is your answer? That is your answer? Back then, they discontinued the Nano in 2019. Okay? Putting it in the functioning mode of the original magazine. Finger off the trigger. Look how smooth that is. I don't like that. Personally, I don't like it. Even the backstrap here with the cross checkering is fairly decent. Don't get me wrong, but all this here, I feel trouble. Okay? It's too simplistic. You pull out, you use it for self-defense. I get that. I love that. Okay? No nonsense. But is it worth $500? That's my question. It is not worth $500. This gun right here, I purchased for under $300. This was not an inexpensive gun. I've always collected 9mm that are about $250 to $300. Very rarely do I go over $350, unless it's just something I want to get and it's something super cool, like that Glock 44 22 long rifle. That was a $400 gun. $399 out the door was $429 for something with the change. I bought it separate. So this is not junk. This can still do the job. I give it credit for 3-inch barrel. You know, that's another way to look at it. For a 3-inch barrel, that's a lot of gun. It's like 3-inch barrel stops right there. Okay. Magazine, 6 rounds of 9mm. And you're like this. Hey, let me on there. There is a niche for this. There is a use for it, of course. Okay. Some people might only want that. They trust Beretta, and it's simple enough to put in a purse or a go bag, and they don't feel they're going to have so many zombies around them that they believe 6+1 is enough. If they remember where they put this, 8 rounds here, they have an additional 8 rounds. And to repeat, showing this, it's like, yeah, that would be feel comfortable shooting. Absolutely. But what's the extra benefit of the $200 that I have to pay for to have that? I can get a Ruger like this, C9. I got maybe, I want to say 7 or 8 of these. The Ruger C9 series. Single stack. Great grips. I'd like them a little more gritty, a little more grittier. It's smooth up here too, so it's not hurting my hand after a lot of shooting. $200 gun. They were giving these away for $189 before buying them. And I'd snatch them up because of my children. And in the future, they can do what they please with it in a legal, law-abiding way, of course. So I'm glad I finally did this video about the Beretta Nano. And other people have done videos on this, and it's like shooting it. Yeah, great. Yeah, so smooth. It's perfection. It's not perfection. To copy the phrase Glock uses, Glock perfection. This is not Beretta perfection. This was an answer to something they could have improved on. They could have shown more technologies inside the mechanisms of the firing pin. I believe it also has a drop safety, which is Glock. Glock was the first ones to do drop safeties. But I don't like how this could be slippery in any hurried and harried situation. So for a gun that's basically under $300, I guess you can say it's worth it. But when you buy the gun brand new, it's a $500+ gun. Okay, this handgun that I'm reviewing today from Nano, I would not have purchased if it was $300 or more. I want to say around $325 to $350. I wouldn't have bought it. So they used to sell them for $500. I don't think they'll become collector's items per se, where they'll be worth something, especially for nostalgia's sake. I just have a question, or I just have a kind of feeling about Beretta since the 2000s and the 92. And all the lore around Lethal Weapon guy Mel Gibson in 1987 when. I remember in 1987, people were like, "Oh yeah, I know the kid has an automatic," and it was like, "Oh yeah, that does look cool," that 92F. It does have a great feel when you shoot the 92, okay, the 92 models. And I got some models of the 92 from Gerson. Okay, I'm not a hypocrite. The 92s are great. But they're also super expensive unless you can get them from Gerson or Taurus. So if I get a Beretta, it better be a great deal. It better be worn in but perfect to last another 200 years without much change to it that I'd have to, redo with an armor. And it's like, okay, great. Beretta does have a reputation for making great guns. I like some of their 22s from the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, and the old style hard plastic, and the dark bluing they did. Some of the tip-up barrel designs are fairly interesting. I do believe they do the Cheetah 380. It's like a miniature 92, but it's in 380 form and it's smaller. It's not miniature, but it's just like a smaller version of the full service 92. It's like, yeah, I've been looking for those, but it's hard to come by them. And I was like, 380, large capacity, 13+1, whatever it was. I was like, yeah, I want that. And now people are starting to think, okay, like the Ruger LCP, 380 in large capacity, 10 round plus one, plus a 12 round capacity, which would make it 13. So you basically have 24 rounds of ammunition, okay, or 23 rounds of ammunition, and that LCP Max might get you out of a lot more trouble if there's a serious situation going down by professional crooks, professional terrorists, someone who planned these things in advance and they're well armed to the gills. And you're like, what do you do? Do you become a target, or do you withdraw or shoot to get out of dodge, so to speak? Withdraw, go to cover and concealment, wait until you can tell that the problem and the threat is over with, or do you just keep on going? You have to make that decision how you engage with something like the LCP Max. Okay, 12 plus 1 equals 13 of 380, then the 10 round magazine, what have you. I'm going to do another review on that. I'm going to do a review on that when I get the Cerakoting done. and it's going to be zombie green. And it's going to be my everyday carry, just because it's like being reborn after losing my PAT3 that was zombie green. It was my everyday carry. I can throw it in my pocket and walk around anywhere in the world, and no one would know unless they had a metal detector, to be honest. But anyways, 3.7 inch barrel. I don't know all the 9-inch width. I'm sorry, 0.9-inch width of the Nano. Still, it's chunky. Okay, I warn people about that. If you can get one for a good price, by all means get it. Practice with it, and you'll probably fall in love with it. Okay, it's not brand new anymore because they discontinued it in 2019. But the $500 asking price, when brand new, is like, nah. Same reason why I wouldn't buy a Beretta Storm or Beretta Storm 4. Beretta. I'm trying to remember everything that they came out in the 2000s with a whole new line, and then they started doing the APX because they were like, we need to make it simple, and we gotta have some competition in the workplace because we can make it simple too. Long-lasting, durable product for service-oriented use and practice to shoot those many rounds. I don't mean on the job, but I mean to practice constantly because it is a service weapon and you want to use it for self-defense and the right way when lives are at stake. Okay? You're going to be practicing with that handgun a lot. The big mechanical, bulky, Beretta Storms. I believe they were called the Storms, the big bulky ones before the APX. Right after these. And the Pico. Yeah, if I can get a Pico too, very cheap, probably about $150, I'll buy one too. It's hard for me to shoot them and with any degree of seriousness because I kind of laugh at them, like the LCP. The LCP I loved. I was practicing it because I picked up on its sideways shoot. When I shoot it, it did a snap sideways. So it was a very light gun, and it snapped very, very, I don't want to say violently, but very succinctly sideways. So I got used to that feel, okay? And I got used to shooting it with one hand too, and knowing how I would have to get back on target. It's like, of course, because that's an LCP that you would throw in your pocket. This you might not, because it's bulky, like I showed before. Compared to the Ruger C9, it's a little longer. Okay, it's actually about the same now if I hold it straight. Streamlined, same concept. Has a side safety if you're worried about it in your pocket too much. Free balling, so to speak, they call it. Ruger got it right the first time. Beretta, I'm not buying you, and people shouldn't buy you just for your name. Okay? Your name coattails is not what a good gun makes. So anyways, guys, that was the Beretta Nano 9mm and 3-inch barrel 9mm. You're probably looking at 1,000 feet per second, 900 to 1,100 feet per second, anywhere in that range. Also, depending somewhat on the ammo, how heavy is the charges inside each individual round. Plinking ammo, you'll probably have no problem whatsoever shooting this. It's bulky enough that it will absorb a lot of recoil. Okay, that's a plus. But it's like, what does this gun want to be, Beretta? With the PX Storm, or not the PX Storm, what was it? The PX Storm? Big bulky one with the rotating barrel. It's almost like the 92 in some ways with the open top barrel. Yeah, but anyways, it's like, what does this want to be, Beretta? Make a better product and bring more people in to see and enjoy your product. But don't make it cost prohibitive just because of your name. Okay? bring more people in with a very good product and sell more of that very good product, you'll still make profit hand over fist. This ain't it. They discontinued this in 2019? Oh, okay. That's probably why they discontinued it. Anyways, guys, that's my review on the Beretta Nano 9mm. And was there anything else I missed about it? All the specifics you can read in the literature that comes like this. It's like a big pamphlet, but it's a long ways pamphlet, up and down, vertical pamphlet. And lock, a typical blue box from Beretta. And I'm not buying it, but I bought it. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.